Scratch it up.
Hi everyone, my name's Jamie Bullock. I'm a senior researcher in music technology at Birmingham Conservatoire, and we've been developing probably over the last 3 or 4 years a new piece of software for interactive audio processing. It was originally developed as part of the Integra Project, which is a European-funded project, and we now develop Integra Lab independently at Birmingham Conservatoire and are continuing to develop it. The software itself is aimed at musicians who might want to do the sorts of things that you can do in software like Max MSP, very complex audio processing and interaction, but for whom something like Max might seem too complicated or the learning curve too steep. So Integra Lab really seeks to be an entry point into interactive audio and to really cater to the kind of base level user. So if you're a guitarist who maybe wants to go beyond their effects pedals, or you're a violinist or a composer and you want to experiment with interactive audio processing in your music, then Integra Lab is aimed at you. When we developed these software, we very much looked into the ways in which musicians work with music, not just with music technology, and the sort of process that they go through in writing a piece or arranging a piece and then actually going into the live performance of a piece. And we tried to embed that process in a structured workflow within the software. So I'm going to now really just talk you through the software and kind of give you a kind of live demo of what it can do and kind of talk you through some of the design decisions that we've made as we've developed it. So the software itself is divided into 2 main views, an arrange view and a live view. And the thinking behind this was that the sorts of user interface that you might use or require when you're creating a piece or creating the live interaction is different from the user interface you require when you're performing it. So generally, a musical work will go from a state of openness and experimentation, and will gradually, as it moves towards performance, the interface will become more fixed, and you'll want to actually have things more tightly controlled. So we've got the two main views to reflect that. And then another thing is that something that all music has in common is that it's a time-based art form. So we figured that we wanted to be able to provide people with as flexible way of working with time as possible, right at the top end of the app, without people having to write any code themselves or do anything, do any programming. So we've got a timeline there along the top, which would be familiar to you if you're from a digital audio workstation background, which gives you the ability to position events within absolute time. But I'll show you later in the presentation that it's also possible to work completely fluently with the app outside of time, so that events are just triggered by user input. So things just start when you want them to start, stop when you want them to stop. Okay, so there's 2 different ways of working with time, the kind of absolute time and the kind of triggered time, if you like. Then within the arrange view itself, you can position blocks, and blocks are really just a container for any type of interactivity or audio processing. So the things to put your audio processing inside so you can organize it. And then you can arrange those one after the other sequentially, or you can arrange them in parallel. If I go inside a block, I'm now in the module view, and this is where we can actually create our audio processing setup. Integra Lab provides an extensive built-in module library of what we felt were the most common base-level audio processing modules that you would need to do most interactive audio tasks. And to add a module to the module view, you just drag it on. So now I'm going to find a module. This is a ping-pong delay module. And I'm going to connect the audio input to the ping-pong delay. And I'm now going to just connect that straight through to the audio output. And straight away, we've got some audio. Yeah, let's take that a bit. Okay, so we've got audio coming straight through now. Let's take that down. Into the ping pong delay. And you'll notice something that's quite important to us is, unlike a lot of environments where, for example, in a digital audio workstation, you've got this kind of audio processing, but it's made available through plugins, and each plugin has its own user interface. So you're not just having to learn the audio workstation software user interface, you're having to learn all the different plugin UIs as well. We decided that we wanted it all to have a consistent look and feel and a consistent layout. So all of the Integra Live modules have a common set of controls, and they all have the same look and feel. Okay, so I'm now going to put in line with this ping pong delay a couple of pitch shifters. And I can just drop a module in line in the signal chain between two other modules that are already connected. And it'll just drop in there like that. Okay, and if I take my input level back up, I've now got pitch shifting as well as the delay. Now you'll notice at the moment, in order to access the module parameters, I'm having to select the individual module and then change the parameter and then select another one and change the parameter. This is fine when you're just trying things out and you want to figure out which module you're going to use. But in live performance, that's completely useless. What you need to have is all of the module controls all lined up, all accessible in the same place. So these checkboxes here in the module view, checking those checkboxes means add that control to the live view. So if I select here now, for example, delay time, you'll see that now lights up. And if I select, for example, pitch on the two pitch shifters, those light up, and that means those controls are now available in the live view. So if I switch to the live view, there they are, and they're all accessible for me to change. I'll also put this input level control on there as well, so that I can just quickly flick this on and off for demo purposes. Okay, so I can quickly change that there like so. I'm now going to add another block. Well, I've already got a block, so I'll leave that block there in the arrange view. And I'll go in now, and I'm going to show you now how I can actually control these module parameters with an external controller. Because most of the time, you can only click on one thing at a time when it's on the screen with a mouse. So most of the time, you're going to be wanting to control things with a MIDI controller or MIDI interface or device or something of that nature. So I'm going to set up, this time, a different module. I'll set up, for example, a phase vocoder, something a bit more exotic. Okay, and what this module does, phase vocoder, it does independent pitch shifting and time stretching. Okay, and what I'm going to do, some of the modules don't take a live input. They can either take a live input or a pre-recorded input. So I'm now going to load an audio file in. Okay, this is just a drum loop. And now I can actually scrub through this audio file using this kind of XY controller here. Can we hear that coming through? Yeah. Okay, there's a bit of lag on it for some reason. Okay, and what I'm going to do now, let's just stop that a second. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to set some routing up so that I can control that XY grid with a MIDI control. So in the arrange view, for anything that I select in the arrange view has routing attached to it, and any parameters within any block I can actually route to something else. So here for this block 2 I've set up, I'm going to select my MIDI input. I'm going to select the controller I want here, CC0, and I'm going to map that to the phase vocoder position, rel position, and I'm also going to map MIDI CC1 to the phase vocoder pitch transposition. So now if I add the phase vocoder's controls to the live view, okay, we'll see that I'm now able to control the phase vocoder with my iPad here. I've got my iPad with some MIDI coming from it. I'm able to scrub through from this XY controller straight into Integra Live. And that's taken me, a couple of minutes to set that up. So we want to make all these kinds of really standard operations that you would do in interactive audio really, really easy. That's the idea. So the last thing I'm going to show you now is actually we've controlled with the user interface, we've controlled with the external control. This time we're going to control with an envelope, which is automated within the application. So for any block, you can add envelopes for any of the parameters of the modules. So for block 1 now, I'm going to go back, and I'm actually going to add a couple of envelopes to this now. I'm going to add an envelope for each of the pitch shifters for their pitch transposition settings. So all I'm doing is clicking on the block and selecting the parameters which I want envelopes for, and then I'll just draw in here the shape of the envelope that I want to map onto the parameter. So see, I've got a sort of crossover there. Now I could just scrub through that envelope using the audio playhead, and you'll notice if I scrub there, those parameters change. But normally what you're going to want to do is actually automate that envelope so it plays through. In order to do that, we've got a final feature called scenes. To create a scene, you just drag under the timeline. Scenes can be in 3 states. Hold just means stay on this block, and that block will stay active forever. Play means play through the scene until the end, and loop means loop over the scene. So I'm going to set this scene to play. Play. And you'll notice now that's playing automatically. If I create another scene now for block 2, in the live view, I've now got a key binding at the bottom on my keyboard to trigger each of those scenes. So I can go scene 1 with number 1 on my keypad. That takes me to scene 1. I get the controls, only the controls I want for that scene, okay? I can control this with MIDI as well, the scenes. I can step through the foot pedal or whatever I want. And then number 2, it'll take me through to scene 2, and I'm back in there. Okay? So I think I'm pretty much out of time now. Yeah. Oh, okay. 2 more minutes. Okay, fine, that's good. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about now is the fact that with Integra Live, well, there's 2 things I'm going to talk about. One is I'm going to talk about the fact that everything in the application is exportable or importable. So these blocks, you can save to a block library, or you can export to your desktop and then import into a different project. So the application comes with a built-in set of blocks, which are kind of demo blocks, which sort of document the software. If I drag the sound file block onto here, it says importing, and it'll start playing a sound file, and that was preset in the block when the block was exported. But you can create your own blocks and add them to that library. The final thing I wanted to say was, this is an open source project. It's on GitHub. It's free. And you can write your own modules in Pure Data. So if you're a Pure Data developer, or you want to use this software but you think, actually, it's a bit limiting, it's not limiting, because if you know PD or want to learn it, you can create your own modules in that, and they can just be loaded in here. And the developer SDK for that will be out probably in 2 or 3 weeks. Okay.
Thank you, Jamie. We'd like to